It's been 6 months since the release of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and whilst the long-term future seems almost non-existent, it seems as though we're close to the halfway point through the content that this game will see in its life cycle. So I thought it was time to reassess where Suicide Squad is at, how its seasons have fared, how its story has evolved, and the changes to the game since launch. A launch that was soaked in discourse and controversy of plot points, characters' legacies, and so much more. Suicide Squad 6 months later is a showcase of the right team in the wrong genre. Look, if you're here seated for a video of how wokeness killed this game, or you're expecting me to just rage about how it's a shit game, whatever, you're in the wrong place. We don't do that here. No matter what, I can't win. If I say I like it, I'm a shill and WB are paying me, and if I have problems, I'm a hater. Guess what? I'm both. There's stuff in Suicide Squad I really do like, and there's stuff here that just pains me so much because you can see the potential. It's clear the game is not a success in so many ways, whether you want to stalk the Steam player counts or you want to hear WB put their own incompetence on a game studio that carried their gaming division for years and kickstarted the renewed trend of superhero games. Yet, in America, it's still the 11th best selling game of 2024 according to Sakana. It's clear it's not the best game ever, but I'm also tired of pretending it's the worst. So let's talk about where we're at with Suicide Squad 6 months later. So we're 2 months into this game's lifespan, giving us a campaign, a season of Joker comprised of 2 episodes in Duality and Fear, and now we're on to season 2, which started last week at the time of writing with episode 3 Frozen Hearts. In this time we've seen added to the game's cast playable anti-heroes in Joker and Mrs. Freeze, Elseworld versions of the known Arkham versions of Joker and Mr. Freeze. This game is Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. But guess what, Sherlock? The Justice League ain't dead. There was a million and one clues to the fact that these League members that you fought were clones, but people just wanted to use this game's big moments and Kevin Conroy's legacy as a means to attack Rocksteady and the team in the most vicious and disgusting manner. We'll just ignore the fact that Kevin said he loved playing the role of evil Batman, or the fact that this game had the most beautiful tribute. People just use his death to push their own agenda against Rocksteady. Truthfully, I've been disappointed by the story. Despite a strong opening to the main campaign and some absolutely terrific fear encounters with the Bat, the story just hasn't really done anything interesting. The seasonal storytelling is nothing short of bad, giving a comic book like cutscene at the start of an episode and a more expensively produced one after a Brainiac is taken out. In the 2 seasons, we probably had about 10 minutes altogether of actually moving the story forward. It feels like we got 3/4 of this game's story at launch, and the remaining quarter of the story has then been cut up into 8 pieces, each being an episode, and is going to be slowly drip fed to us until inevitably we rescue all the League members and take the fight to Brainiac. This episode, episode 3, saw us rescue the Flash and kill off another Brainiac. Flash is now in cryo for recovery, and again, it's now we just kind of wait. There's no week to week progression or even in like missions chatter to progress things or talk about where things are at. Everything feels stagnant. The story just never feels like it's going places. It's one of the worst aspects of this game's live service in a franchise that's just so narrative heavy. I'm still keen to see us reform the League and take on Brainiac and hopefully see Kevin don the cowl one more time in a heroic manner that will complete his Arkham story in a fitting manner. Truth is, even if you haven't played since launch, it may feel like you've missed a lot with the League being alive, but it's kind of just thrown at you rather than discovered. To me, it's always been disappointing in a universe that's so dense with DC lore and references and Easter eggs that it just doesn't really feel like there's any ongoing DC storytelling here at all. That takes us to the game's seasons then. We've covered the storytelling aspect, but a live service game's success is often based on its content, and fitting of a major DC character is 2 sides of a coin. On the one side, you've got these majestic character kits that are extremely fun to play and utilise and make builds on and traverse across this gorgeous metropolis and Elseworlds. On the flip side, you've got one of the most bare bones endgame experiences that doesn't even change per episode. I think going into launch, Seasons and Elseworlds were poorly marketed, when the truth is, Seasons function like a Diablo season, except cut into 2 parts. So, an episode's loop goes as follows. You'll get a comic book style cutscene to introduce a new character or further enhance the story, gain access to incursions, which are the endgame, need to level yourself up to a certain episode rank, gained by completing incursions, public events, or a horde mode. Once you reach an episode rank, you'll then gain access to a mission, granting you to a new hero if it's a new season, or if not, you'll fight this episode's Brainiac. Once that Brainiac is defeated, the objective is basically to run around your 3 favourite incursion missions non-stop and just keep progressing the mastery level to as high as you want to get to. These missions would be kill 150 enemies, destroy a gun turret, kill a certain amount of brutes, just really bare bones stuff. And all mastery levels do is increase the health pool, the challenge of enemies, the damage you take, and the environmental modifiers in effect. It's a humongous shame because these missions are completed in some of the most extraordinary DC environments. Last season was a Joker themed Elseworld, and man, just a labour of love like Joker Tower and the Daily Cackle. And on the Daily Cackle, there's this little video of Joker just mucking about on like 1,000 TVs and singing. But then it's just supplemented by a mission of kill 100 enemies, I guess. Each episode does bring with it synergized loot, so a season of Frozen Hearts comes with infamy loot inspired by Killer Frost, and notorious weapons inspired by Golden Glider and Firefly. It's true that something like Destiny seasonal content is just a few missions running over and over, but there's week to week story progression, there's more deeply layered objectives and variety, alongside a ton of other features. And that just isn't here. On the later mastery levels for brute focused ones, it's just really tedious. There's just nothing here that, for a co-op shooter, incentivizes actual cooperative play. And that's a massive miss. Pair that with, for me, as a DC fan, just really sick loot. Like, look at the designs of some of these things, man. Absolutely dripping in DC sauce. And that's paired with some truly excellent build crafting. I'm going to come back to some of the quality of life changes Rocksteady have made, but talking about one now, one thing that they've changed is mutators. These used to act as debuffs, but now Rocksteady made the change so these are actually buffs that you can synergize your builds with, and it's really opened up the build crafting to another level in this game. And then that's then paired with another cool idea in villain synergies. So let's say I've got a Killer Frost weapon, and I've got a two-face melee weapon. They may synergize as a mixture of the 2 perks that they both provide, and then give me an extra perk that resonates with both of those perks, acting as like an enhancement. So I just created this Harley Quinn build that meant basically after I set about 20 enemies on fire, I will explode, lose all my shields, but essentially decimate all enemies within 20 meters. I could then pair that with another piece of gear that when my shield gets to 0, I let out a freeze blast that also freezes all enemies within 20 meters. So you pair the two together, and you get this damage explosion, but also freezing them all of an affliction. And it's just pretty sick. Like I say, Rocksteady since launch have made some truly excellent foundational changes. Simplifying mastery levels so that your highest unlocked one is the average of your highest 3 in completed, and then 5 levels above that. There are 3 tiers of infamy loot, which used to be segregated by the mastery levels. Now, from mastery level 1, you can access all 3 tiers of loot. There are 5 master versions of infamy and notorious loot, meaning there's always something to chase, even if it is just a base damage increase. Fights against that episode's Brainiac will now provide unique corrupted loot that comes with unique perks special to defeating that particular Brainiac, and have the ability to completely redefine a build, and that makes the boss fights worth fighting again. Though, TLDR, it's not, because those boss fights are just pretty horrible to play, I can't lie. They've added a stash, aka a vault, which gives us 900 inventory slots now, which, since there's now 6 characters all sharing loot, is very, very welcome. And you now have the ability to immediately dismantle loot after mission complete for any unwanted loot. The problem is that no matter how nice your environments look, how interesting the build crafting can be, how authentic the DC arsenal is, and how fun the fan Easter eggs are, if the spine of the content is bare bones, it doesn't amount to anything. And that's how I found these seasons. I'll dip in for a good 8 to 12 hours, progress what story there is there, be in awe of these fantastic DC environments and scour all the Easter eggs, flick through the new weapons and marvel at the clean aesthetics of them, and then I'll muck about with some builds, get to about Mastery 100, and dip. They basically function like Diablo seasons, and when each new episode drops, I treat it like a seasonal character, so this episode I focused on Mrs. Freeze and Harley, Last episode I did Joker and Deadshot, and then maybe next episode I'll do Boomerang. And that's where I find the fun here, in the experimentation. There's just no substance in the activities. A raid or dungeon would do wonders, but it seems more unlikely than ever that we'll get anything like that. And the Brainiac boss fights are just absolute bullet munchers, and deeply, deeply unsatisfying to do, alongside the fact that they take ages because you have to do side objectives first anyway. Not to mention, these fights are just reskins of the Justice League fights, minus 1 or 2 extra attacks, or they're fusions of 2 of them together at once, like Flash's moveset and Superman's. For a game that is so full of DC references, Brainiac as a character and a boss have just been such a disappointment, despite the fact that he's voiced by the excellent Jason Isaacs, especially in otherwise terrific renditions of characters like Superman and Wonder Woman that feel authentic to their comic book counterparts. Brainiac doesn't. Of course, I've already spoken briefly on the 2 extra playable characters that have been added, but they are really well made. For as much as I don't like Mrs. Freeze or Joker's character's design, their toolkits have been great. Mrs. Freeze has been the standout, basically traversing around as Iceman or Frozone, and yeah, it's a testament to the gameplay team of how sick the traversal in this game really feels and how satisfying it is, and how that can actually work in a 4-player co-op setting with so much going on. Each new episode brings more of the Riddler trying to get on your tits with new trophies, riddles, or time trials, which are fine additions and they are an Arkham staple at the end of the day. I've been baffled by the cosmetic rollout as it's taken 3 episodes to get any real good cosmetics into the game, as the 2 battle passes have been fine but pretty underwhelming, and I think the same can be said about the store skins. It's weird that even had this game been a major success, I do not think people would have been lining up in the store to drop cash on these skins. Now that we've got some truly terrific Arkham skins, it feels weird to want to invest anything at this point considering how short this game's lifespan probably is going to be, given Jason Schreier is rarely wrong, and he reported that there's only a small team left churning out the remaining updates on this game. All in all, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League 6 months later is more of the same. And that'll be how you feel about it. If you didn't like it then, you won't like it now. And if you did, it's gotten better for sure, especially if you have your expectations correctly set for what a season is and not expect too much from a narrative perspective. The more content we get, the more you just feel like, what a bloody talented team just paired with the wrong project. This Metropolis is just sublime, and there's so many aspects of this game that as a DC fan, I just wholeheartedly love. There's aspects too that, even as a looter shooter guy, they feel truly innovative, like the villain synergies, the combo meter, and some of the builds that you can create here are really fun in the moment. I'm still keen to see Rocksteady complete the story that they set out to tell, reunite the League, and defeat the final Brainiac. And I still can't wait to get my hands on Slade Wilson, likely coming in Season 4. And if Batman is to come back, I'll be there to see Kevin don the cowl one last time. There's a lot to be said about Suicide Squad in so many of its core systems and its structure, and there's a lot to be said about the design choices that were made. One thing I cannot say 6 months on is that this team isn't talented. Between exciting traversal and character kits, some of the best presented cutscenes and animation that I've seen in games, and nothing but pure love and an understanding for the DC franchise. 6 months on, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League isn't a failure of the Arkhamverse. It's a failure of poor leadership and a warning to those chasing trends. That's how I feel about Suicide Squad 6 months later. I want to know, how do you feel? Do you share my sentiment? Do you agree? Disagree? Look, this game can bring out the worst in people. All I ask is that you keep it civil. I'm fine with people disagreeing. Just be normal about it. Anyway, if you enjoyed my thoughts, dropping a like helps me out a ton. And if you did enjoy hearing them, it's what I'm trying to do here. Talk about the things that I'm really passionate about without going overboard or rage inducing. So, if you're after more of that, consider subscribing. I would love for you to stick around. Anyway, all of my socials are linked in the description down below, so you can find me there if you have anything else for me. Other than that, I hope you have a terrific day, look after yourself, and I'll catch you in the next one.